There's a number sitting in a USDA report right now that most families will never hear about. It's 47%. That's how much the price of one specific pantry staple has climbed in the last 18 months. And it's the item sitting at number 1 on this list. But I'm not telling you what it is yet. Not until you understand what's actually happening on the shelves you walk past every week. Because here's what I keep seeing in the data. The families who quietly stocked up between March and July of this year are now sitting on roughly $1,500 in avoided grocery inflation, the ones who didn't. They're paying full sticker for items that were half the price 6 months ago, and the gap is widening every single week. This is Stock Sentinel. If you're new here, this channel exists for one reason, to give you the insider read on what's about to move, what's about to disappear, and what smart shoppers are doing right now while everyone else is still asleep at the wheel. Hit that subscribe button before we go any further, because the next 25 minutes contain 7 specific items, each chosen for a concrete, data-backed reason, and the closer we get to number 1, the harder this gets to ignore. Let me set the frame for you. Right now, 3 forces are converging at the same time. Global shipping costs are up 34% year over year, according to the Freightos Baltic Index. Domestic diesel prices, the number that quietly determines what everything at the grocery store costs, are hovering near multi-year highs. And a series of tariff adjustments that took effect earlier this year are still working their way through wholesale pricing, which means the shelf price you see today reflects contracts signed months ago. The real pain hasn't hit yet. There's also something happening in distribution centers across the country that almost nobody is talking about. Buyers for the major grocery chains are quietly shortening their forward contracts on shelf-stable goods. When that happens, it means one thing. They expect prices to keep climbing, and they don't want to lock in at today's rate because tomorrow's rate will be lower for them and higher for you. We'll come back to what that means for item number 1, 7 items. Each one earned its spot for a specific reason. And number 7 is where most people get this list wrong. Number 7, white rice. Here's what almost nobody tells you about rice. The 20-pound bag sitting in the ethnic aisle is often 40% cheaper per pound than the identical product 2 aisles over in a branded 5-pound bag. Same grain, same origin, sometimes the same mill. The only difference is the packaging and the shelf it lives on. Long-grain white rice, stored properly in mylar with an oxygen absorber, has a documented shelf life of over 30 years according to research from Brigham Young University's food storage program. Brown rice, by contrast, goes rancid in 6 to 12 months because of the oil in the bran. That's the trap most well-meaning shoppers fall into. They buy brown thinking it's healthier, and then they lose the entire investment when it turns. The reason white rice earned a spot on this list isn't just price. It's caloric density per dollar. At today's wholesale rates, white rice delivers roughly 1,600 calories per dollar spent, one of the highest ratios of any shelf-stable food in the American supply chain. Buy the 20-pound bag, split it into 1-gallon mylar bags with 300 cc oxygen absorbers. Store below 70 degrees, away from light. That's a decade of insurance for under $30. Hold this one in mind. At number 3, it connects to something most people completely miss about how these staples work together. Number 6, iodized salt. Salt is the item that quietly separates people who understand food storage from people who think they do. Here's the fact that stops most viewers cold. Salt, stored dry, has an indefinite shelf life. Not 10 years. Not 20. Indefinite. Archaeologists have recovered usable salt from Roman-era storage, but that's not why it's on this list. Iodine deficiency is the world's most preventable cause of cognitive impairment, according to the World Health Organization. In a scenario where the fortified food supply gets disrupted, even briefly, iodized salt becomes the cheapest cognitive insurance policy your family can own. A $1.50 canister covers a family of 4 for months. And here's what the industry doesn't advertise. The iodine in iodized salt slowly sublimates out over 3 to 5 years if the container isn't sealed properly. Most people don't know this. They store salt forever and assume the iodine is still there. Buy plain iodized table salt in canisters. Also buy 1 bag of pickling or kosher salt for preservation work. The anti-caking agents in table salt interfere with fermentation. Rotate the iodized every 4 years to keep the micronutrient active. The next one involves a price gap that's genuinely hard to justify. Number 5. Dried beans. A 1-pound bag of dried pinto beans costs roughly $1.80. That same pound, once cooked, produces about 6 cups of beans, the equivalent of 4 to 5 cans of the branded product, which retails for around $1.40 each. You're paying a 300% markup for water, a can, and convenience. But the price story isn't why beans earned this spot. Harvard School of Public Health has published extensively on the blue zone populations, the 5 regions in the world with the highest concentrations of centenarians. The single dietary factor common to all 5 is daily bean consumption, not olive oil, not fish. Beans, think about that for a moment. The cheapest protein in the American grocery store is also the food most strongly correlated with living past 90, and its stores, sealed properly, for 25 to 30 years. Bui pinto, black, and navy, that combination covers texture, protein profile, and cooking versatility. Store them the same way as rice, mylar, oxygen absorber, cool and dark. 1 5-gallon bucket holds roughly 35 pounds, which is over 200 servings of protein for under $50. Picture week 3 of living entirely on what's in your pantry right now. The next item is what determines whether that week feels like survival or feels like eating. Number 4. Cooking oil. Here's the number that should get your attention. Global vegetable oil prices, tracked by the FAO Oil Price Index, are up 23% since January. Sunflower oil specifically is up over 40% because of ongoing disruption to Black Sea shipping. Ukraine and Russia together supplied roughly 75% of the world's sunflower oil before the war. But here's the part almost nobody thinks through. Fat is the single most caloric-dense macronutrient, 9 calories per gram, versus 4 for carbs and protein. In any scenario where food volume is constrained, whether that's a natural disaster, a job loss, or just a tight month, oil is what stretches everything else. A pound of beans and a cup of oil is a meal. A pound of beans alone is punishment. Oil is also the item most people get wrong in storage. Vegetable and canola oils oxidize within 12 to 18 months even sealed. Olive oil lasts about 2 years. But coconut oil, sealed and stored below 75 degrees, is stable for 4 to 5 years. And refined coconut oil has almost no flavor, so it works for everything from frying to baking. Buy 2 large jars of refined coconut oil, plus a rotating supply of whatever oil you actually cook with weekly. That combination gives you shelf life, plus daily usability. We're at the halfway point. Take a breath here. Everything from here forward carries significantly more weight. The first 4 items on this list are foundation: calories, minerals, protein, fat. The next 3 are what separate a family that survives from a family that thrives when things get tight. And I want to give you one new detail about number 1 before we continue. It's not exotic, it's not expensive, and there's a good chance you already have some of it in your kitchen right now, but almost no one has enough. Number 3, rolled oats. Here's a claim that sounds like marketing until you check the source. A half cup of rolled oats delivers 4 grams of soluble fiber, and the FDA has approved a specific health claim, one of only a handful they've ever approved, that oat beta-glucan reduces the risk of heart disease. That's not a supplement company saying it, that's the FDA, but that's not why oats earned this spot either. Rolled oats are the single most versatile grain in the American food supply. Breakfast, baking, ground into flour, used as filler in meatloaf and burgers to stretch protein, blended with water and honey as an emergency infant food when nothing else is available. That last use is documented in old Red Cross field manuals. At current prices, a 42-ounce canister runs about $4.50. That same weight in individually packaged instant oatmeal costs 3 to 4 times more for less nutrition and a shorter shelf life, because the packaging traps moisture. Buy the large canisters of old-fashioned rolled oats, not instant, not quick cooking, transfer to Myla for long-term storage. Old-fashioned rolled oats, stored below 70 degrees, maintain nutritional quality for 20 to 25 years. And remember what I said about rice at number 7. Rice plus beans plus oats gives you 3 different textures, 3 different cooking methods, and 3 different meal moods from the same 3-ingredient foundation. That's what most stockpile lists miss. One thing before we reach the top 2. Something most channels covering this topic will never say directly. The mistake almost every prepper and stockpiler makes is treating food storage as a bunker mentality. It's not. It's a household economic strategy. Every dollar you spend today on a shelf-stable staple at today's price is a dollar you don't spend at tomorrow's inflated price. Food storage isn't paranoia. It's the highest return, lowest risk investment available to a middle-class American family right now. There's no other asset class where you can lock in a 20 to 40% return simply by buying in advance. That's the frame. Once you see it that way, the next 2 items stop looking like survival gear and start looking like what they actually are: quiet, compounding wealth. Number 2. Honey. Here's the fact that stops food scientists in their tracks. Archaeologists opening tombs in Egypt have recovered honey that is over 3,000 years old and still edible. Not preserved, not fossilized. Edible. The pH, water content, and hydrogen peroxide chemistry of raw honey make it one of only 2 foods on Earth that never spoil under normal conditions. The other is salt. But here's the part that connects to why smart shoppers are stocking it right now. Global honey supply is under serious pressure. Colony collapse disorder, combined with a wet spring across major U.S. production regions, has cut domestic honey output significantly this year. Wholesale prices are up 28% year over year. And roughly 76% of the honey sold in American grocery stores is imported, much of it from countries where the label honey doesn't legally require it to actually be honey. A 2011 Food Safety News investigation found that 76% of grocery store honey had all pollen removed, which prevents any origin verification. This one and number 1 together form the most efficient combination on this entire list, because honey isn't just a sweetener. It's a preservative, used to preserve meat, fruit, and butter for centuries before refrigeration. It's a wound treatment. The FDA has approved medical-grade honey for burn care. And it's a morale food. In hard weeks, a spoonful of honey in tea is the small, warm thing that keeps a household from feeling like it's rationing, buy raw, unfiltered honey from a domestic producer whenever possible. Local farmers markets, small apiaries, or brands that specify single-state origin. Store in glass, sealed, away from sunlight. It will crystallize. That's not spoilage. That's proof it's real. Warm the jar in water, and it returns to liquid. Now, the one I've been building toward, number 1. Wheat berries, not flour, not bread, not pasta. Wheat berries, the whole unmilled kernel of hard red or hard white wheat. This is the item up 47% in USDA tracking. This is the item grocery buyers are quietly shortening their contracts on. And this is the item almost no American household stocks, even though every prepper manual, every food storage guide, and every serious agricultural historian ranks it at the top. Here's why. A 5-gallon bucket of hard red wheat berries holds approximately 37 pounds, sealed with an oxygen absorber. Stored below 70 degrees, that bucket has a documented shelf life of over 30 years. Brigham Young University's food storage research has recovered wheat berries from 40-year-old storage that's still milled and baked into edible bread. That single bucket contains roughly 55,000 calories. At a maintenance intake of 2,000 calories a day, that's nearly a month of survival calories from one container that cost you around $40. There is no other food in the American supply chain that comes close to that ratio. But calories aren't the real story. The real story is what happens when you crack the seal. Wheat berries can be sprouted, turning them into a fresh vegetable with dramatically increased vitamin C content, which becomes critical in any scenario where fresh produce is limited. They can be boiled whole and eaten like rice. They can be ground into flour the day you use them, which is how flour was consumed for most of human history, and which delivers roughly 3 times the nutritional value of the pre-milled flour sitting in your pantry right now, because flour begins losing nutrients within 72 hours of milling. Remember the number I opened with, 47%. That's the price move in the last 18 months. Wheat futures on the Chicago Board of Trade suggest analysts expect another meaningful move in the next 2 quarters as global grain supply tightens. The families stocking up right now, at today's prices, are locking in the last low. Here's what to do. Buy hard red wheat berries in 5 or 10-pound bags first. Test them, learn to cook them, learn how your family responds to whole grain. Then buy in bulk. A single 45-pound bucket runs $35 to $50 depending on region. Store below 70 degrees in Mylar with a 2,000 cc oxygen absorber. Buy an inexpensive hand grain mill, around $60 for a basic model, and you have functional, nutrient-dense flour on demand for the next 3 decades. That's the list. 7 items: rice, salt, beans, oil, oats, honey, wheat berries. Look at what you actually have when you own all 7. You have calories in 3 forms: grains, legumes, and fat. You have complete protein through combination. You have the 2 eternal foods, salt and honey. You have the mineral that protects cognition. You have the fiber that protects your heart. You have the fat that stretches every meal. And you have, in wheat berries, the single most calorie-dense, longest-storing, most versatile food humans have relied on for 10 years. The families who understand this aren't preparing for the end of the world. They're preparing for a Tuesday in February when the grocery bill comes in $200 higher than expected, or a layoff notice, or a storm that knocks power out for a week, or simply a year where everything costs more and their income doesn't. Food storage, done right, is quiet, compounding household wealth. Start with rice and beans this week. The 2 cheapest, easiest wins. Add salt and oats next paycheck. Layer in honey and oil the month after. And when you're ready, commit to the wheat berries. Build the kind of pantry that means your family has options, no matter what next quarter's numbers look like. If this gave you a clearer read on what's actually happening, subscribe to Stock Sentinel and turn on notifications. The next video breaks down the 3 specific items disappearing from major retailers right now, and one of them will surprise you. Here's the question I'll leave you with. If the price of every item on this list is 30% higher 6 months from now, will you look back on this week as the week you started, or the week you waited?